welcome to Sarah's Stamping Retreat. Today we're going to be making this cute Eiffel Tower card, and it's a really cute little thank you card with a watercolour wash in the background. So the stamp set that we're going to use today is this Parisian beauty stamp set. You can see there's a lovely Eiffel Tower and then some text and a little fleur-de-lis and some little bits to go with it. The stamps that we're going to use for this card are this bit of text here, and the fleur-de-lis, and this little bordered stamp here. So I've already got them set up in here. And these coordinate with these lovely Parisian dies, so you get the detail of the Eiffel Tower. You get one to cut out just the outside, you get a couple of swirls and bits, and you get Amour and a Merci. You can actually see that a bit better on here. So here's the stamp set and from the catalogue, and here's the die set. So you can see that the text says Merci and Amour. And there's some nice little examples as well. So let's start with that watercolour wash background. So I'm just going to bring this in. I'm actually going to use this to put my colour on. So I am using a couple of drops of Smoky Slate, and this is the Smoky Slate re-inker. And then I'm also going to use a couple of drops of the Petal Pink re-inker. And then I'm going to take my spritzer. Now I've just filled that with ordinary tap water, and I'm just going to spray the colour just to water it down nicely. So for this card we're going to use 6 Petal Pink card blank, and on top of that we're going to put a layer of basic grey, which is 1/4 of an inch smaller each way than your card front, and then this piece is a piece of shimmery white cardstock, and that is 1/8 of an inch smaller than the grey piece. So we're going to do the watercolour wash on the shimmery white cardstock. The reason we use shimmery white cardstock is because it takes the water a little bit better. So I'm just going to mix up this Petal Pink, and then I'm just going to do a nice little wash over the top of that card. Then I'm going to just turn it round, and I'm just going to stick it right back in the Smoky Slate, and then I'm going to wash over the other end of the card with that. So you want to try and not to get your fingers too much on it, and you can see that I've got some finger marks on the bottom there, so I'm just going to go back over with a little bit more of the Petal Pink. So you just want to leave that to dry under something heavy, because as you can see otherwise it's going to buckle. So, and you can just clean that off with some kitchen roll or whatever. So we're going to bring in our dry watercolour wash paper, and you can see there's like a bit of texture there and stuff, and it's still slightly bent, but that's okay because once we attach it to our card then it will be fine. So I'm just going to take my basic grey ink, and I'm just going to stamp it, and I'm going to stamp it off, and I'm just going to stamp a few times on here like this. So I've got some light text there. I'm actually going to stamp the first generation stamp here, and then I'm going to, so I'm stamping a few times without re-inking, just to get that gradient, so that I've got lots of different levels of colour. And I'm not being too careful, I just want a rough background and a bit of texture to it. think I'm happy with that now. So then I'm going to come in with the fleur-de-lis, and I'm just going to stamp it on a few times. You want to make sure with this as well that you stamp it partly on the page as well. It helps it to look a bit like a background paper, and if you have everything like nicely in the frame, then it doesn't look quite so organic. And then I'm just going to finish off with a few bits of this border dye around the edges. So I'll stamp one up here, stamp one down here, and let's maybe use one across here. Maybe we'll do one at the bottom as well. So then I'm just going to glue our layers together. I'll just put a bit of glue onto the basic grey layer, and I'll add that onto the petal pink card front, and all of the dimensions for these layers will be on my blog. And then I'm going to add on the layer that we've done the colour wash and stamping on. It gives a nice kind of mixed media type effect to the card. And if your card's still quite buckled at this point, then you can just put it under a book again to stick it down, but I think it's okay. And then I'm just going to put a bit of glue. So I like to put it on the bits that are a bit wider so that it doesn't splodge through. So I'm going to put a bit on the top here, a bit on the bottom, and some on the wider panels. And then I'll just stick that into the centre of the card. There we go. This glue is really good because it grabs pretty quickly. And then I've got a strip that's about 1/2 inch wide there. I'm just going to stick my Merci onto it. And then I'm just going to cut a flag in the end. You can actually use the triple banner punch for this as well, but because it's quite small, I'm just going to cut it with my scissors. And then I've got some scrap of petal pink cardstock, and I'm just going to take the fleur-de-lis again. And I actually used the smoky slate on the other one that I did, but I'm going to use the basic grey on this one. So I'm just going to stamp 3 of the fleur-de-lis, and then you can see that this die will actually fit round and cut it out. So I'm just going to run that through my die cutting machine. And so now I've got 3 fleur-de-lis. I'm just going to arrange those. So my little banner will go there. So I think I might actually stick them to the back of my little banner. I stuck them to the card front before. I'm going to stick them back to the back of the little banner this time. So just going to put that there. And this one can go just beside it. And then we'll have this one just below like that. And then and then stick some Stampin' Dimensionals. So this is a new pack of Stampin' Dimensionals for those of you that don't regularly use them. I just want to show because you actually get a lot in the packs for these. So you get 3 full sheets with a lot of dimensionals on each sheet, and I actually like to, you can see the waist around the outside, I actually like to use that for banners like this. So I'm just going to chop off a little bit like this. So I'll just take that edge off, and it's actually really good for using on banners because you can just stick it along like that then. There we go, and I'm just going to stick that then onto my card like this. And then that is our finished card. So I hope you've enjoyed this tutorial today using the Parisian Beauty stamp set and the coordinating dies. If you wish to purchase any of the things that we've used in this tutorial, then you can have a look in the description below, and the link to all the products will be there. And there'll also be a link to my blog where you can find all the dimensions and the shopping lists on there as well. So I hope that you enjoyed today's project. Please click subscribe if you'd like to see more, and I shall look forward to seeing you soon.